You don't have an outline.
You can't handle the outline.
Oh, that's what it is. You don't have the truth.
You want the truth? You don't have the truth. I know, that's why I want it. Welcome to WayTooBroad, a show and tell program for really, really ridiculously excited grown-ups. I'm Hannah, and these are my co-hosts, Erin and Ben. Downstairs Erin and downstairs Ben. Hi, Erin.
Hello. Please don't explain that. Hi, Ben.
Hello. Hello, downstairs Erin. Hello, Hannah.
You know, I'm glad you pointed out that we were downstairs because that really changes the quality of the audio. People are going to be like, why do they sound like they're on the first floor?
You also both have nice, sleepy shoulder boys, which I also don't feel the need to explain further.
Great. Let's move on.
I think that one people can easily figure out.
I don't think so. I really don't think so.
I think it's super self-explanatory.
Give us a call. Give us a call and let us know if you figured out
All right.
what that meant.
What does that mean? The first listener who figures it out gets a high five.
Yes. And also, but we should mention, Ben's audio might sound a little bit more echoey than usual. Let's do drinks, and then you can tell us why when you're telling us your drinks.
Okay.
Okay? Erin, what are you drinking?
I have a cup of decaf coffee. I hope it's decaf. I was on the phone when I prepared it. I have an apricot seltzer in my Yeti Coaster.
Nice. Is that exciting for you to see, Ben?
Very.
Look, Ben. There it is.
Love that thing.
It works.
Keeping my drink crystal cold.
Doing a very...
like ice crystals.
That face you made, you're like, no, that's wrong. Right as you said it.
That's one of my favorite things, when someone like knows something was wrong instantly.
Crystal cold.
Crystal cold.
What you got, Ben?
I got a plastic cup of ice water.
Okay.
Because all of my furniture are gone because a bunch of men came in on Saturday and took them.
All my furniture are gone, which is why I don't have a cup. I don't have a cup because all my furniture are gone. All my furniture,
all my glasses, all my kitchenware. They took my desks. They took my bed. You know, everything.
You're saying it like they, unwillingly.
Yeah, no, I asked them to.
Your will.
Obviously, I asked them to do it. But I'm still. That doesn't change the fact that I'm describing what happened on Saturday. A bunch of men came in and took all of my stuff.
Why did they not take your bookcase?
Because we're selling it.
Okay, how's that going?
Fine. I've actually already sold 3 pieces of furniture. Well, 2 pieces of furniture and a rug.
Nice.
You've ever used the app Let Go? It's very easy to use. There's a lot of free and cheap stuff on it that people are getting rid of. It's like Craigslist, but less creepy and more streamlined, basically. And I've sold all my stuff through there. It's quite nice.
Shout out,
Let Go.
Shout out, Let Go.
I feel like your bookcase is now a cat case.
It is. There's a boy on it.
So you should sell it as such.
Probably right.
Cat case.
Yeah.
Oh, bud.
So, yeah, you're downstairs, not up in your loft, so you have a big lofted ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be a little echo.
Something like 18 feet or something. I don't know how many feet, though.
Wow.
It's a lot of feet.
Can you touch it?
No,
from the ground?
Can't touch it. I'm not that tall.
But if you, stood on your own shoulders, you would get awfully close.
Whoa. That's a wild thought.
How about that? That's why there's an echo, because there's 2 Bens. One standing on the other shoulder.
The only way I can think of standing on your own shoulders is, curling up in a wheel shape. Doing a bridge, but then going all the way back until your feet meet your shoulders and then rolling around.
Yeah, you just roll up the wall.
Yep.
Oh, you're probably right.
Yeah. What are you drinking, Hannah?
I'm drinking 2 drinks. Ian asked me to get some nice flavory seltzer because he was tired of the regular seltzer that we make at home.
Did he call it, did he refer to it as flavory seltzer?
I don't, probably.
Sure.
So I got a mango limeade polar seltzer. And I have an iced tea for just a little bit of caffeine and help me be awake.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So before we get out of drinks, yeah. Before we get out of drinks into upfront stuff, we also should mention that we'll have an episode next week, and then we're going to be taking a 2-week hiatus while Ben and Kylie complete their move back to Boston.
Correct.
Excuse me. So we'll remind you again next week, but that's happening. So it's just a heads up.
Just a heads up. We don't want you to freak out.
Don't freak out. Prepare yourselves. Start saving up episodes now.
Start saving up money. Get flashlights, batteries, milk, bread.
Store cash in your mattresses.
Castress.
Water. Can't trust the bank.
Castress. No.
Castress.
Gone.
Castress.
Too many soft sounds for one word.
That's a portmanteau.
Castress.
You have to say it with that voice. Castress.
Castress. You're really
Who is that actor's name that we were doing that voice with? Arthur Darvill.
Arthur Darvill's Castress.
Arthur Darvill is a castress.
Okay, upfront stuff now.
Yeah, what? Other than that I'm moving and men took all my stuff? What do you want
Yeah, we don't
from
care
me?
anymore. I have an upfront stuff. I was speaking to my mother-in-law, Robin, on the phone this evening. She wanted me to let you know that she also really liked Blown Away. I think she watched it maybe before she heard your recommendation, but she works with glass, and so was like really, really into it.
Oh my God, I love it. And I don't know if I said this on the podcast, but after we covered Blown Away, this rarely happens. Like sometimes, we'll have like parts of Obsessions like overlap with Wonderful, the McElroy knockoff of our podcast, and that's always like exciting, especially when they do it after us because it further proves that they knocked us off. They came out like the same week as us,
constantly knocking
within
us off.
days of our first episode premiering, which was 3 months after we recorded it. They Griffin and Rachel switched the format of their Rose Buddies Bachelorette podcast to a very similar theme to ours, where they just talk about things they really love once a week.
Coincidence?
Fuckers.
I think not.
I think not. So anyway, after I did Blown Away, a few weeks later, maybe 2-3 weeks later, Griffin did Blown Away as one of his wonderful things. And it was really, really fun to hear him talk about it. He was like observing the way that they always, like, if you had $1 for every time that someone was like, that's glass for you when it breaks. Like, people are just always breaking things. And then they'll be like, oh, sounds like glass. It was great.
That's funny. Did they were they also obsessed with the editing as you were?
No, I don't think he said anything about the editing. He might have said something about the pacing being good or something, but he definitely didn't like look up the editor and shout her out. Like I also didn't do.
You half-heartedly attempted to and then gave up. So you went further than he did.
Yeah.
So.
But that's great. It's a really great show. I'm glad that you like it. Can I say her name or should I not?
I already said it, so you sure can.
Oh, you did?
Yep.
Robin.
I said it like in the intro to my
Yeah, she definitely did.
I really did.
And she doesn't have a last name. She's that Swedish pop star Robin.
Is she Swedish?
That's your brother-in-law.
Yeah, I think so.
I forgot to tell you. Yeah.
Pretty
I'm
sure
over here. That's Robin, right?
I don't know.
I don't know.
You couldn't guess for that, like, one small portion of song.
Yeah, she's
that
Swedish.
part of the chorus?
No, it's not. Yeah, it is. I'm just dancing on my own.
Oh, okay.
You know that one?
Yeah, I do know.
I don't even know if it's I'll Be Dancing on My Own. It's something. Yeah. Watching you kiss her. Oh.
Her debut album came out when she was 16.
Why don't you see me?
Why don't you see me?
I'm giving it my all. That's a good song. Why don't you see me? That's Swedish, right?
Yeah.
That must be a Swedish word.
So that's your mother-in-law.
Yeah.
And she works with glass. That's amazing.
Yep.
But yeah, I actually didn't know that you worked with glass, Robin, so that's really cool. And cool show, cool thing to do.
Oh,
Thanks.
you will get to maybe even see her art studio because you'll be visiting when we go see Beast Edwell's musical in September.
We also got a voicemail from Aunt Brown.
Oh,
Speaking of mothers.
wow,
of the
let's
pod.
hear it.
Okay, how?
Oh, man.
Hold on.
So typically that's on the person who mentions it. So like, I have already figured out.
Hold on. I'm dying. And there's a bug in here. It's fine.
Oh my god. Unrelated.
Okay, all right. This also has a transcription, which is very good. You want to listen first?
No, I want to hear the transcription first, because it's better if you don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Because your brain
Okay.
can't fill in any holes.
Okay, here's the voicemail transcription from Aunt Brown. I love you too, and I'm calling you because you're pleading with us to call you. So I'm leaving you this message. Free hip replacement surgery, and maybe I'll call you while I'm in post hip replacement surgery, if that's what the hell else I be doing. Will I be doing? I just thought you might be interested to know, A, that I don't know anything about what believes it means, so I tried to call the letters of Blaze that instead of.
What?
The phone number. So I don't know if it's your father knew, but I didn't know, by the way, this is Aunt Brown. The other thing is, I went to your website and I pressed the call us icon, and it seemed to take me to a blank Twitter page. So much sure that with you, since you want to have more phone calls. So I love you, and this is a pity message. Hi.
Wow. Call us goes to a blank Twitter thing. Oh, it says open in FaceTime. No, it should have opened on her phone. I'll look into it.
Is it maybe because she does? No, she does have. Does she have? She doesn't have an iPhone. Is that why? Maybe.
It shouldn't be.
She pressed the wrong button.
Maybe.
No,
One of you.
Mine just opened a blank page.
Oh, okay. Cool. So that's not working. I'm flipping all.
Well, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we will.
We will figure it out.
All right, play it for us. I think I understand what's happening in this message. Here's my prediction. Here's what my guess from that was. She doesn't understand why we say blaze it and thinks that it's part of the phone number, and so tried to type it in as part of the phone number. But she didn't understand, but Uncle Brown did. Because he used to blaze it.
What? Mom, come on, grow up.
Come on. Grow up and blaze it. We know you blaze it already.
Blaze it. All right, let's hear it. Yeah, she was like, yeah, okay, fine.
Okay,
She's going to be 2 days post-surgery when this comes out.
Aw. When's
We're
her
just
surgery?
parading.
Friday?
Congratulations.
Yeah, Friday.
That's how that math works out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You got it.
Okay, here we go. Ready? Go.
I love you too, and I'm calling you because you're pleading with us to call you. So I'm leaving you this message, pre-hip replacement surgery, and maybe I'll call you while I'm in post-hip replacement surgery, because what the hell else will I be doing? I just thought you might be interested to know that, A, I don't know anything about what blaze it means, so I tried to call the letters of blaze it
Mom, come on.
instead of the phone number. So I don't know if I knew, but your father knew, but I didn't know. By the way, this is Aunt Brown. The other thing is I went to your website and I pressed the call us icon, and it seemed to take me to a blank Twitter page. So I'd share that with you since you want to have more phone calls. So I love you, and this is a pity message. Bye.
Amazing. Thank you, Aunt Brown, I guess.
It's just what we thought, but it's much better with the tonality. It fucking
works for me. Look at that. It's his call. I'll figure out how to make that. Look at that. You see that?
Maybe it doesn't work on Android. Because Mom has an Android, too.
This is good feedback. I will do it. How is the lady to know, even without Aunt Brown to save the day with her pity?
Thank you for saving our podcast, Aunt Brown. We'll live to podcast another day and then take 2 weeks off after that.
Yeah.
Any other upfront stuff?
No.
Never.
All right. Well, then let's pop in. How about it?
How about
Erin, what you got?
Me. I've got something I'm very obsessed with this week. It is a book that I'm almost done reading. I just barely couldn't pull it off before podcast / didn't remember to and watched a show during dinner when I could have. It is The Secret Diaries of Miss Anne Lister.
Oh shit, she's back.
She's back. She back.
Who's back? Oh, Anne Lister.
She back. So this book is edited by Helena Whitbread, and Helena Whitbread was Helena Whitbread. Wonder Bread was kind of the person to unlock Anne Lister for the rest of us. Basically, she is a really cool lady and was like, let me just read some of this. Well, to
That's
myself.
How she did it?
Yeah.
She was just like, I'm a really cool lady. Let me just read some of this.
Exactly. Basically, she was like, had to drop out of school when she was young because she had poor health. And then she like got married and had kids. And then once they were grown, she was like, well, I want to go back to school. So she went back to school and needed a research project. And so she was like going to do a little piece on Anne Lister. She had like read some article about Anne Lister or something. And while she was at the library, the librarian was like, oh, Anne Lister kept a journal. And so she asked to see some of it and was like really fascinated by it, and then saw that a lot of it was written in this code. So she was kind of the person who she's been working for, I think it's been like close to 30 years. Well, it's been over 30 years. That was in actually 1983 that she first started kind of on this journey of like of transcribing and decoding Anne Lister's diaries.
I have a question.
And yes.
Did you realize in that moment that it was over 30 years? Because you realized that was a few years before you were born?
Yes, sir. Well, what happened was...
Figured it out, cracked it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What happened was I was remembering a video that I had seen where she was saying how long it's been. And then I remembered the year that she started, which was 1983. And in fact, the first publication of this book was 1988, which was the year I was born. And this book covers her diaries, and it's not like her complete diaries. It's like a very edited selection because, again, Anne Lister wrote a ton every single day, basically every single day of her life, starting at a certain point. This year covers the years... fuck. Don't have that handy. Hold on.
The years of fuck.
The years of, well, that's what they were. 1816 through 1824. So, nice. I think she was, how old was Anne at that time when we start? It's kind of cool because it goes through, like, Anne was, like, almost about my age. Like, there was, like, in one of those years, she was 31. So that was kind of cool to see what she was up to. But anyway, it's just like, there's a little bit of commentary from Helena, who obviously knows a ton about her. Oh, and I was going to say, there's another book that she wrote, No Priest But Love, which is out of print, but is coming back into print, I think, early next year, as The Secret Diaries of Miss Anne Lister Volume 2, and that covers the years 1824 through 1826. But Helena Whitbread, aka Wonderbread, is writing is almost finished writing Volume 1 of a biography of Anne Lister, so that's really exciting.
Oh, nice.
Yes. So anyway, there's a little bit of commentary in this book, but it's mostly just like her diary, and it's just really interesting. I mean, a lot of it is just like a kind of very straightforward account of what happened that day, but then they indicate that something is written in crypthand by putting it in italics. So you'll see kind of a very straightforward account of something, and then you'll see some italics coming up, and you're like, oh shit, here's what we're about to hear what she really thought about this, right? Or like something like real juicy. Yeah, so it's just really cool, having been into Gentleman Jack and then like the audiobook, this has been just fascinating to read. I love it so much. There's this like really like riveting part, which is so cool for like a diary. There's a lot of like really awesome citations, and I'm learning a lot, and it's just a delight. I have just really been enjoying it. I thought it might be a little dry just because of the content and the year it was written. Like there's a lot of words I have to look up. Just because of like them being, in a different time period and being British and stuff, but it's been an absolute joy to read. Highly recommend for anyone who's interested in it.
I have a cue.
Yeah.
So the stuff she writes in crypthand, is it like all related to like her like gayness, or is some of it just like secret stuff she didn't want anybody to read?
I think it's like any of her private thoughts that she wouldn't want someone to read. So sometimes it's like actually, like, here's a little short snippet. This is from Thursday, May 29th. Went down to dinner at, this is in plain hand. Went down to dinner at 6. My father and Marion had been here an hour. They stayed tea until a little after 8. Okay, so that's a straightforward account. Now we're in crypthand. They are a forlorn-looking pair, and none of us scarce know what to say to either of them. So it's kind of like, here's what happens, and then, yeah, she shades a lot. She throws a lot of shade. She's such an interesting person. I mean, she's super smart, really, like, multifaceted, really classist, really, like, judgmental, in really interesting ways, because she gets judged a lot for... She gets a lot of terrible things that have said to her. And then she'll just, comment on in her private thoughts about how this one lady isn't feminine enough, which is like, she constantly gets harassed on the street about not being feminine enough. So it's interesting. Man, I wish I could find it. There was this really funny, it made me laugh out loud so hard. It was like just this very straightforward account. There was no crypthand at all. It was just like, I passed this one lady. She's a strange woman. One day I was walking past her and she pulled out from under her petticoats 2 large muffins. Just like fun, like that happened. In the early 1800s somewhere. And it's just kind of cool to know about it.
Yeah, that's like, kind of like, I feel like any type of day-to-day account like that, like reading someone's journal from that long ago, regardless of whether they were an interesting person or not, is like always so fascinating. And then for her also to be such a really truly fascinating, like, person of that era, like, it makes it even more amazing. But like, I would gladly read anybody's journal that was preserved until today from like that time period.
Yeah, same. And it's really cool. There's this one part where what happens is like something emotionally traumatic happens to her, and she describes the incident like in kind of a straightforward way. And then you have these pages and pages and pages of crypthand where she, because of this incident, it's like with somebody, with a lover of hers, she's like processing what happened and is like having this amazing moment of introspection and like enlightenment about this person's character, and is recording it. And it's so cool to see that, that journey of like how you might journal something to kind of process it, to see that, to like know what was going on at, you know, at the time, to hear about like what insight she had on other people. And all of it is so fucking eloquent. Like it was the most eloquent part of the journal that I had read, because a lot of it's just like straightforward, but this is like truly like she's just like letting loose. And like it's like a true raw emotional moment, and it's so fucking good. It's like really, really, like she was such an emotionally intelligent person, and so this part I think is just like an amazing piece of history. But also just like a really cool, you know, it's just like a really cool piece of literature even. So
yeah, it sounds cool also that like based on what you're saying about the way she comes across in the journal, it seems like and you said this too when you did Gentleman Jack as your obsession, but it sounds like they did a really good job of like capturing so much of who she really was.
Yeah. And it's interesting because this is I think the show starts in like 1830, and so this is a good like 10 years before that, 15 years before that. So it's kind of like she's not there yet. So I actually started rewatching Gentleman Jack tonight just because I wanted to like see how I felt after almost finishing this book. And it's really interesting. I'm like seeing things like the whole thing with the coal, right? Like I've just like spent, you know, 6, 9, 12 years of her life kind of hearing about how, you know, she just like desperately wants to be self-sufficient. She desperately wants to have money. She constantly is like keeping track of every penny she spends and how she can like get more money and like save money and, you know, turn a profit. So with that context, like hearing that she has a fuck ton of coal and it's more valuable than it's ever been, like that meant more to me this time, right? Like, you know, when she's finally like in her 40s, like that is, you know, that's the key that she's been waiting for to like unlock her, you know, true independence. So yeah, it's just really cool. I've really just been enjoying learning more about this lady. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The diary is not an audiobook yet, right? Or
no, I don't think the whole diary has been transcribed yet.
Well, but this volume.
Oh, I see. I don't think so. I haven't looked though. Maybe it will.
I don't see it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll read it with my eyes. Who knows?
Yeah. Read it with your eyes. That's a good way to read it, too. It's not my favorite way to read, but it's, you know, in a pinch. I'll do it.
Yeah. Awesome. Excuse me. Good one.
Cool. Dope as hell, sick, nice. Cool, awesome.
Check it the flip out. I think it's only available in publication in Britain. I had a hard time getting it from my local bookseller. I did order it from Amazon because they do have it in stock.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I do see that.
I called my bookseller and they were like, we'll put in an order for you. It's on back order. I don't know when it'll come in. And I was like, okay, do that. And then I got it Amazon Prime like 2 days later.
Are you going to buy it again from them?
I am, yeah.
That's nice.
Because I gifted one of them. And I'm going to just have I took this one to the beach, so it's kind of all fucked up. So I want to have a nice copy, too.
The volume 2 is available for pre-order, too.
Yep. And you can get it on the Kindle. What's interesting is I have a volume of her diaries that say it's from, like, the first year that she started writing through the last year of her life that I haven't seen anywhere else. It's called I Know My Own Heart. And I got it for... It was a used book, but it was still an expensive used book. Like, I've never paid that much for a used book, but now it's the only copies on the internet are going for sale for $800.
What?
Whoa.
Which is insane. So,
and you have one?
And I have one.
Wow.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
You're a collector. Welcome to the life.
I feel, yeah, I'm like officially a collector now, so.
I don't know why I said welcome. I don't know what I collect.
Ladders.
You said not only welcome, you said welcome to the life. Like, you know.
What did you say I collect then?
Ladders.
The context there is that there is and always has been a ladder right behind Hannah when we record.
Welcome to the life. I gestured at the ladder for the listener.
What's funny is I actually have 2 ladders in this goddamn apartment.
Wow,
You're more of a ladder collector. Yeah.
That's not how you social climb, you guys. You could touch your ceiling with your ladders.
No, they don't reach
with
that
all
high.
your ladders. No, you just stack them on top of each other.
And then stand on their shoulders.
And then stand on your own shoulders.
Goodbye from the life. Do that.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm done.
Cool.
Okay. Wonderful. I just ordered it.
Oh, great.
Mm-hmm.
Flip and enjoy it. I've had to keep 2 bookmarks in it because there's a big citations. There's all sorts of helpful citations in the back, and so you'll want 2 bookmarks. You'll want 2 bookmarks if you can arrange
it. Oh gosh, I better order some new bookmarks.
If you can scrounge them up, you'll want 2.
Okay. Dang! I wish I'd known that before I placed the order.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. At least our listeners will know better.
Yeah,
hopefully. Cool. Well, great job, Erin. It's time for Ben's turn.
It's time for Ben's turn. So
what's your turn, Ben?
My turn is a show on Netflix. It's an animated show that I think's like, I mean, I feel like every animated show is assumed that it's for kids nowadays, a lot of them at least, but a lot of them are also just like really great shows. And this one's no exception. It's called Hilda.
Oh.
Have you heard of it?
No.
It's the most adorable, heartwarming, amazing show. It's like one of those shows that if I ever have kids, they will definitely watch. Because there's so many nice things about it. Including, well, so it's like about a little girl. She's not that little. She's like, actually, I don't know what age she's supposed to be in the show. Maybe like 10 or 11, something like that. But she like grew up in a cabin in the woods with her mom. And she grew up like making friends with like elves and trolls and all these little like mythical creatures that live out in the woods. And she's like the only one out there. And the art style is beautiful, by the way, for the whole show. It's amazing. And then she and her mom moved to the city, and she has to like adapt from wilderness life to city life and like learn how to make friends with other kids because she didn't have anyone else. She only became friends with like creatures and everything out in the woods. And it's just so many, like there's her and her mom's relationship is so sweet in the show. And just like, I don't know, there's something really nice about seeing healthy parental relationships on television, especially even like content intended for kids. And like seeing like how, I don't know, like parents and especially mothers, I feel like in media often get portrayed as like purely the people who like keep the rules and like, you know, ground the main character or like just try and stifle whatever fun adventurous thing they're doing. And the mother in Hilda is very much like supportive of her daughter, like doing fun and cool things. But also, like, when it gets dangerous, she's like, hey, you need to be safe, and I'm going to do what I can to keep you safe. It's just, like, super nice.
Yes.
And also it gets, like, there are parts that are, like, not scary, but, like, I don't know, it gets, like, kind of serious in parts, which is really cool and entertaining. And she has, the, like, other 2 main characters are her friends, David and Frida, and David has, like, the most adorable, slightly Scottish accent. Because, like, in the show...
You love those accents.
I do, but his is even better. So, like, in the show, his, like, parents are Scottish, but everyone in their city is... It's a British show, and, like, based on a British graphic novel. And so, everyone in the show is British, but, like, he's got a slightly Scottish accent. It's just so funny. And the other friend, Frida, is... well, not African. I almost said African American, but that's wrong because it's British. So she's a little black girl, and it's also very nice to see a main character, you know, woman of color in the show for kids.
I watched the trailer while listening to you talk, I turn the volume down.
Mm-hmm.
It's so cute.
It's so cute.
The art is so cute.
Yeah, and it's like it seems to mostly be based on Scandinavian folklore. Like the elves are really tiny, and like the trolls are these like rock monsters that turn to stone in the day, and then when the night comes out, they move around. And every episode basically has like some other kind of or multiple like mythical or some like supernatural creatures in it. And I'm actually I don't know for sure, but I think I'd be curious to see like how many of them are based on in some way real Scandinavian folklore.
Did you see that it's based on a graphic novel series?
Yeah, and I also said it.
Oh, did you say it?
I did.
I didn't
Neither of us heard you.
That's okay.
Should have said it better.
Yeah, I should have said it better.
I don't.
Did you hear him say it?
No, I didn't.
You didn't say. I've been listening to you the whole time.
I don't know anything about like art, but also like the color scheme of this entire show is so pleasing.
Amazing. Her hair is blue, and she always wears like blue and orange, like red and orange outfits that look just so adorable.
The whole like the way the sky is like in lines, like striated is so pretty. Like everything's kind of like these rich but muted colors. It just looks really great.
It's amazing.
How did you hear about it to start watching it, Ben? Did you say that too?
Kylie heard about it first. And actually, Kylie heard about it a while ago when it was like first coming out, which was sometime last year. It was almost a year ago. It was September of last year. And what did you say, Hannah?
Was it in like the art news because she's like an artist?
It actually kind of was. She follows a lot of artists on social media, and I think that there are a lot of artists who are excited about it. And then it's something that she's kind of had in the back of her head that she wanted to watch for a while. And so the other night she just kind of did, and then I started watching it with her. And it's been like so nice. It's like the perfect thing to just like watch before bed because it's just like so calming and nice.
Nice. Did you ever fix that mattress?
We got a patch that came today.
Oh, good.
But we have been sleeping on the floor. Yeah.
Oh God.
Oh man.
This artwork reminds me of like The Secret of Kells and stuff like that. Like that.
Yeah, that was the first thing that I thought of.
It is reminiscent of that. Not as like.
Did you already say that?
No, it's not as like 2D, but it is similar.
Yeah.
It also reminds me of a show I have not watched, but have recently been thinking about watching. I'm curious if either of you have ever watched Steven Universe.
No, I haven't, but I've heard of it. I've heard
so many good things about it, but I've never watched it. I'm not sure. I think it's on Hulu, but supposedly it's like extremely like LGBTQ inclusive, and it's got like a lot of really great like sort of emotional intelligence messaging, and also the central sort of theme. It's a kids show. It's another animated kids show, but it's the central theme is around, or sort of, there's a lot of music in it, is what the fuck I'm trying to say. Like, people break out into song a lot. And it's Rebecca Sugar, who also worked on Adventure Time, does the music for it.
She's the voice of Marceline, the singing voice.
Does the music in what now?
Steven Universe and, Adventure Time.
Oh, okay.
Come on, grab your friends. We'll go to very distant lands.
With Jake the dog and Finn the human.
Okay. Adventure Time, another really, really, really good LGBTQ friendly kid show. Cool. Animated kid show.
Freaking dope.
That is extremely good.
Lucas loves Adventure Time.
Yeah, I do too. There's this one episode I think about. Like, Lucas is definitely the reason that I ever started watching it, because Lucas had a thing where he would, when he was obsessed with a show, he would never stop watching it. After school, you couldn't get the TV until it was like prime time and the parents took it over, because he would have DVR'd every episode of whatever like he was obsessed with at the time. And then you'd just be watching all of that on repeat. It was Family Guy for a while. So Adventure Time was a good... I don't remember that. Yeah, it was Family Guy. I'm pretty sure. I guess we'll probably hear about it if I'm wrong about that, but I think it was.
I don't doubt it. I just don't remember that.
But there's this one episode of Adventure Time where the whole episode takes place in a dream, it's like, I think it's Finn the human, the main character who it's his dream. And in this dream, he lives a whole life. He like gets married and has children and like builds a life with like someone and like then when he gets like dies of old age in his dream, then he wakes up and instantly forgets his dream.
Wow.
And goes on about his, like, you know, his life. And I never, like, it hit me so hard. I still think about it all the time.
Wow.
Adventure Time's really good.
It's really good.
Is it just like that it's such a beautiful dream, or he had this whole like really meaningful dream and then just like didn't remember it and just moved on?
It's both. Like, I feel like that's, you know, it certainly was relevant to my interests because that happens to me and I get frustrated about it because I like dreams, you know, but like it happens to everybody all the time. Most people, especially if they don't have a special interest in them, like almost never remember their dreams. But like then sometimes I've had dreams where it's taken me like 15 minutes to like, it's like my recording has been so long for So Dreamy that I haven't even like been able to use it. And I've had to like condense it into a tweet thread instead or something. Like that, those types of things, like that type of narrative happens every night, almost unquestionably for people, but it's just most of the time you don't remember it.
Yeah.
It's like remarkable.
Yeah.
But gotta watch more animated shows again.
Yeah, they're really great.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of very talented artists that work really hard making them.
Mm-hmm. We did watch the new season of She-Ra. I don't think we talked about that on here.
You didn't?
Did we talk about it?
I meant... I got mixed up because the last thing you said was a negative, and for some reason I went negative. I meant to say,
you didn't, because I already said that. Was what Ben was saying.
Oh, you did. You did. Is what I meant to say. That was so weird. God, also it took me so long to realize what was wrong with what I said. Man,
but,
it was good, right?
It's good. It's good. I love that show.
It's a great show.
I love that She-Ra. Yeah.
That season
watched
it was wild the last season. Things got crazy.
You would like it, I think, Erin.
I know I would. I know it.
Yeah. It was wild. It was good. Everybody watch She-Ra.
Everybody in the club
and Hilda.
getting tipsy.
Everybody watch it.
Cool.
Can I tell
I'm
you?
gonna watch that.
Can I tell you something that the dream thing from Adventure Time made me think of, and I just have been thinking about it just now since.
What?
So this one time, this friend was like drove me somewhere, and he had like a BMW at the time, and we were on this like really small winding road, and he was driving like really fast. He was driving like he got almost up to 100 miles an hour, and I was like really angry, and I was really scared, and I thought that we could have died, and we could have. So at my wedding, he was there, and he said, "Hey, do you remember that time that I drove you so fast on that road?" And I was like, "Yeah, I thought we were going to die." And he said, "Maybe we did, and this is our life flashing before our eyes."
Holy shit.
I think about that all the fucking time.
Oh my God.
I think it's like it's so fucked up, and it's so like fucking poetic, and it also doesn't make any sense because I don't think the life that you would have lived if you died in the past makes sense. But I love it. Mostly, I feel like it was a very poetic thing to say in a very weird, fucked up way.
At an odd moment.
Yeah.
On my wedding day.
Yeah. Wow.
That's wild.
So, anyway.
Oh my goodness. What if we did?
One last thing I forgot to mention. The voice actor who plays Hilda is Bella Ramsey, who played Lyanna Mormont in Game of Thrones. The little girl.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
The really badass little girl.
Yeah, the really badass little girl.
Nice.
Dope.
Nice.
And she's great.
Cool.
You're great.
Thank you.
I'm going to watch that for sure.
You're great, and your obsession's great.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Okay.
Cool.
Hannah time.
Hannah.
All right, cool.
Hannah time.
Hand time.
So this is an unusual week for us because you guys know what I'm going to talk about already.
Yep.
And another thing I guess I'll introduce the topic and then give my content warnings, because I'm going to do like timestamps for all of this. So this segment, this obsession is a little bit unusual because it's like a pretty serious topic. But I had a miscarriage, or I'm having a miscarriage currently. I have been for about a week, and I probably will be for at least another week.
Wow.
Yeah.
God, I didn't know they lasted that long.
Me neither.
Yes. So this is why I wanted to talk about this.
Yes.
Because they're like, so before I go any further, if any of that sounds like something you don't feel like getting into or hearing about, like, I completely get that. Like, I've certainly had moments in the past, like, month as I was dealing with this where I just didn't want to hear anything about it, and I was like really into avoiding any of these topics. And if you're there for any reason, like, please feel free to skip ahead to homework, or just like shut the episode off and check the notes for homework. I'll give editing Hannah will stick in here the timestamp for when we stop talking about the topic of miscarriage, in case that is not something you want to hear about.
For homework, skip to 1 hour, 13 minutes, and 32 seconds.
Let me just yell at editing Hannah for a second. Hey, Hannah, editing Hannah, stop playing your phone game and do this. Okay.
That explains so much. There'll be like a completely editable burp, and I'll be like, why is that in the podcast? And now I know.
Yeah. So the reason that I wanted to talk about this is that, like, I'm very much, I consider myself to be someone who knows a fair amount about, like, women's reproductive health, at least for someone who is educated in, like, the American education system in Florida, who, like, my only sex ed in middle school was, like, abstinence only sex education. Like,
God,
if
really?
you have sex, you will get pregnant and die. Sign this abstinence pledge.
Fucking
like, it was
Christ.
basically.
Oh my god, Hannah, you broke your abstinence pledge. Do you need to like call somebody? Should I be reporting you?
Should we call Florida?
To, like, some church in Florida?
Please, nobody call Florida on me, because I don't think they would like it.
I don't think you're allowed back in the state. You broke your
Good
abstinence
riddance. Fuck that
pledge.
state.
Oh shit.
If you can't be abstinent, then you can be abstinent from Florida. That's how they feel.
So, like, I was really, the thing that surprised me the most about this whole experience is how much of it I did not even know was possible. And I've talked to both of you about individually about some of these things. I don't think you know, like, everything I'm about to tell you. But I'm not going to go into, like, gruesome detail about anything, but I just like I feel a responsibility not only to sort of help destigmatize the idea of talking about miscarriages, but also to help people, you know, like, especially probably even more so than people who are already worried about this. Like, I really want this to reach some people who are not at a point where they're, like, necessarily thinking about getting pregnant yet, but maybe they'll just have this knowledge in their future so that they won't be taken by surprise in so many ways like I was by this whole scenario, basically. So, and I also, like, want to say up front that like, every pregnancy journey is different. Every miscarriage is different. My experience is absolutely not going to be like what everyone who has a miscarriage has experienced or will experience. Like, that's like obvious, but it's worth saying. And I also want to say that we'll get into why, but I've had, like, if I sound a little bit less emotional than you might expect, which I imagine that I will, just based on, like, some of the conversations I've had today without any crying, it's because I've had, like, about a month already to sort of process all of this, and you'll understand more about why as I go into this a little further. But, and then I also wanted to say up front, like, there are some things that I knew going in. Like, I thought I was pretty well sort of educated. I knew that here are some statistics, just so people know sort of, like, some of the basics, in case you don't. 1 in 8 heterosexual couples have trouble getting pregnant or sustaining a pregnancy. Just like flat off. The other thing that's like a shocking statistic was to me the first time I heard it, but I did already know it, was that 20 to 25% of recognized pregnancies are estimated to end in miscarriages, mostly in the first trimester.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Of those, about 80, I think it's 85% of them that are in the first trimester. So the first trimester is like the first 12 or 13 weeks. And most of those, I don't know the percentage, but most of those are not the fault of either parent. They're chromosomal abnormalities that just can't support life. So basically the embryo will just like stop growing, and then eventually the body recognizes it's not growing and just like flushes it out. So it's not like anybody did anything wrong.
Which is wild
and
that
also,
our body, that your body can do that.
Not your body.
Yeah. You don't have an uterus.
Gotcha. It is wild. It's really wild. And then another thing just to know, this is not something that I didn't already know, and it's something that I've been really aware of. It's something doctors make sure to tell you, and I think that's really good of them, is that having a miscarriage means basically nothing about the potential for you to have a successful pregnancy in the future. Many, many, many people who get pregnant and have a miscarriage go on to then have further successful pregnancies. So I knew all of that. I thought I was like fairly well prepared. But these are some things that I didn't know. So the first thing, which was a complete shock to us, was that you can know for almost like 100% certain that you're going to have a miscarriage up to a month before you actually have a miscarriage.
Oh, God.
So there's a hormone called HCG. I don't remember. I wrote it down. Human chorionic gonadotropin. Which
I was going to say that.
Tip of my tongue.
Which in most healthy pregnancies, it doubles every 2 days, 2 to 3 days. So if for any reason your doctor, and they don't do this with every pregnancy, but if like there's an early warning sign, or if you are like a high risk pregnancy, then they'll test it sort of 2 days apart to see if it's doubling. And if it's not, I've seen cases even where it looks like it's close to doubling and doctors will still say that you're probably going to have a miscarriage. Like, it seems like it's very, very important that it doubles. But if it's going up really slowly, or especially if it's dropping, then you'll basically be told right from then whether or not you're having any symptoms of a miscarriage, that this is not a viable pregnancy and you're going to have a miscarriage, which is what happened to me. I was really mad at I think Erin, you know this. I don't know if you know, Ben, but when my midwife first told me, I was in the bathroom at my work and she had not called knowing that I had had a first test. And so I was the one that told her that my number dropped. And she was like, oh gosh, it's probably not a viable pregnancy then. And like kind of rushed through like this whole thing about like, Jesus. Here are the things that are going to happen to your body, and call me when you start bleeding. And I was like really like shocked and upset, and like,
and it was like the first that you were hearing about it not being viable.
Yeah. She went through the whole thing. And also that, I'm not going to get like this granular on everything, but those two tests, the first one that I had and the second one, were not from the same lab. So she even said herself that that she needed to repeat it again, because the results can't necessarily be trusted to be like, showing a correct trend if they're from two different labs. Conditions can just be different. So, when I took the third test, which was 2 days after that one, it didn't drop. But it didn't rise barely at all. It rose a little bit, but not enough. So then the next thing that I learned is that, Googling is really, really, really bad for you in these situations, for one thing. So there is such a thing as a pregnancy where HCG levels don't double, but it's still a healthy pregnancy. It's like 15% is the estimate, which I also like don't know that is necessarily like accurate. because, you know, most pregnancies, like I said, they don't ever get their HCG level tested more than once.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, like there are people, you can find their stories online if you're looking for them. There are people who have been told that they're going to have a miscarriage, and then they go in for like an ultrasound when they continue to not have symptoms, and like voila, there's an embryo with a beating heart or a baby with a beating heart, and they just move on and like can go on to have a successful pregnancy. That does happen. And then of course, what the fuck was that?
Some of those people probably try to preach to not trust doctors.
so they're on forums, and they're like, it ain't over till it's over, like all that kind of stuff. And that makes it really, really tough to reckon with the stuff that you're hearing from your doctors. So there's that angle on it, because there is also such a thing as a missed miscarriage, which I also didn't really know about, which is like you can have an embryo that stops growing, but it doesn't like evacuate, basically. And in that case, you either have to take a medication to get it to get like your like contractions basically to start happening, or you can go in. Whoa, what the fuck is that? Is that a beetle? Hold on.
This is the bug. Bug was mentioned before. This bug had a cameo earlier in this podcast.
I don't know what to do about this bug.
What did you say? You were like, something.
It's a beetle.
Happened, and there's a bug in here.
That was a different bug. That was a much smaller bug.
Oh.
I don't know if I should crush it because it's gross.
Is it Paul or Ringo?
What?
The beetle?
Is it George? He's been
like
dead.
A brown beetle. Okay, it's just walking now. I'm just gonna leave it.
Okay.
Oh God. Okay.
I feel like we're gonna have a flare up again later on.
I'm just really afraid of beetles.
Why? They're
Can
like the least dangerous buggies.
I know. What's up? What?
Can I ask a question about the embryo not being evacuated?
Yeah.
In some cases. So I feel like when you menstruate, you're clearing out basically the place that your body has created in your womb to like house a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Would that like a normal period after that not evacuated, or would that not happen for some reason because of like hormones that are being supplied because the embryo is in there?
Basically the latter. Like it's sort of like just sits there, and it was sort of what looked like might be happening to me, because after I had that first round of tests, we then continued to test once a week for the next like 2 weeks. And after, let me see if I'm getting this math right. Hold on one second. This was the first week. So actually after the first week, and it didn't go down after a week, basically it was just sitting at this level where it's like, basically if the number's not going up, then they know that the embryo is not growing. But if the hormones are high enough that your body still thinks you're pregnant, then you won't have anything like a period.
Gotcha.
So she was then the other thing that's a possibility besides a missed miscarriage in that situation, or the extremely unlikely possibility that you're just having like a really unusual healthy pregnancy, is that you could have an ectopic pregnancy. So that after I got that second test result, then the midwife called me to say like, you need to come in and have an ultrasound so that we can check all of these different places. I mean, it's not that many, like the tubes and the ovaries.
We need to check your lungs. We need to find this goddamn baby.
Like technically, this is another thing I didn't know. Technically, an ectopic pregnancy just means it's outside of the uterus. So like people do have them in other places. Like you could have them like anywhere. I don't know, but it happens. Like it does.
Although I guess Kylie has uterine tissue in her lungs, so
yeah. She could have it in her lungs.
There's this crazy shit of like, oh my gosh, where did I hear it? It was like, I listened to a podcast, and I'm not remembering what podcast it was, but there's basically what happened was like, this lady had some like eggs put under the skin on her arm, hoping to kind of make them viable or something. What? Because her ovaries were like completely dead. What? And she ended up getting pregnant naturally because somehow they like got into her body and it like happened. It was
Holy
like,
shit.
yeah, the body's an incredible place. So maybe they, need to look, maybe there are lots of places. I don't know.
They only looked like the usual suspect places for me. And they didn't see anything, I guess, that was like a red flag. So that was good, because the thing about an ectopic Googling, speaking of Googling, just don't fucking Google ectopic pregnancy, because like the people who are out there telling, some ectopic pregnancies literally clear themselves up. Like they just like, you don't even bleed. They just like absorb into your body. But the stories that are out there are all people who almost died from them. So like, just don't do it, because then it was like, I spent the first week like in this half pregnant state of feeling like I couldn't stop acting like or eating and stuff like I was pregnant, but I knew I probably wasn't like gonna continue being pregnant. And then the next week I spent in like a completely paranoid state where I was like, every gas pain in my abdomen was like, holy shit, like, am I about to lose a fallopian tube, basically?
Yeah.
So it was like all really shitty, all like in this complete like gray area where I did not know what was going on. I was very fortunate to not be going through it alone whatsoever. My parents knew about the whole situation. Ian's parents knew about the whole situation. Erin, you knew about the whole situation. Obviously Ian did, and he's been like super wonderful. He came with me to every single blood test, even though he had nothing to do there, just to like, because he didn't want me to feel like I was bearing any more of the burden than I like naturally have to. So that was, that was really good. And the other thing that I feel really fortunate about is that, as tough as like the last few weeks were, but the weeks before I started actually having the miscarriage, if I was having to deal with the pain that I've dealt with in the last week and all of the emotional processing, and also like if the whole thing had taken us by surprise, like when I actually started bleeding, like, that would have been a lot worse. Like, I'm glad I had the chance to spread it out. And a lot of women don't have that, or a lot of people dealing with miscarriages don't have that sort of opportunity to do the emotional processing sort of before the physical processing. Because the other thing I really, really want to emphasize to people, and like this is probably more of a message to people who know folks who have been through miscarriages or are going through miscarriages, like, and maybe even like to doctors to be careful what they say, is like, I feel like a lot of, and naturally, because this is the most universal part of it, but like a lot of the coverage, when you read stuff about people having miscarriages, it's almost always, I feel like, about the emotional side of having a miscarriage, like how difficult it is and all these things. And like, that's obviously true. Like, I'm not denying any of that. It's very difficult emotionally, but it's also very difficult physically. Like it really sucks and hurts. And I had 2 different medical professionals tell me, partially because it was so early, for me, like based on the ultrasound, it looks like the baby, the embryo stopped growing at about 5 weeks. So, there was like, it was more than a quote unquote chemical pregnancy, which is like the ones that sort of like start and end so quickly that there's only really time for like implantation, and then they sort of clear out. Like a lot of times people don't even know. They just think they're having kind of a late period. It was more than that, but it wasn't like at that time when I was having that ultrasound, I should have been at like 8 weeks. So it should have been bigger. So, because of that, because it was so small and because it was so early, I had a couple different medical professionals tell me that it was going to be kind of a lot like a regular period or like a really heavy period. And it so wasn't. It so isn't, at all. I had one other person, another doctor, that we met with, who I ended up seeing coincidentally on like the second day of the miscarriage last Thursday. And I told her how it had been so far. And she looked at my ultrasound, and then she looked back at me and she said, "I don't think it's started yet." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And she's like, "Yeah, because based on what I'm seeing here, I think you're going to have like a lot of cramps. Like you have a lot to sort of get out of there, basically."
Oh my God.
And she was completely right. And I'm like, I honestly am glad that, like, not that it like, I still wasn't really fully prepared for it, but like, so,
I'm glad she told you.
Yeah.
So you weren't like freaking out about it.
She was really great. And she was very straight up with us about everything. But like it was kind of helpful for me to hear, because the thing, I think the unintended consequence of that is that I think sometimes people, myself included in this experience, will feel like they need to work through it or push through it in the same way that you do a period. You can't let a period like slow down your life. I've had to stay home from cramps before, but it's not like I don't like to do it. I like to try to stay on top of them and go to work and live my life. Like that was not a possibility. On Friday, last Friday, I went into work and I ended up, I was taking like Tylenol and I was okay, but I was getting like really tired and it was really slow. So I just like came home, and then the whole evening I came off the medication and I had these horrendous, like, I've never obviously had contractions. I don't have any kids. But it felt like more like contractions to me than cramps. It was like happening on a regular interval. It was like very localized, like, and so that was like the entire night. And then the other thing that's different that I just learned, actually, even after I decided to talk about this on the podcast, is that when you think you've had your worst day and things start slowing down, usually if it's a period, then that means that things are going to continue to wind down and they'll be over pretty soon and you're probably through the worst of it. What I learned on Monday is that is not the case with a miscarriage. Because I don't think I told either of you guys this, but on Monday I'd had really a fine weekend. Like I had kind of like a period during the weekend. And then, like slightly more inconvenient in some ways, but that I won't, get into. And like, I definitely was taking it easy, but on Monday I went into work again thinking I was fine. I didn't even bring any medication because I didn't think I would need it. I hadn't needed it all weekend. And, then around like noontime, I just started getting, these horrendous cramps. And I ended up calling the midwife to make sure that like what I was going through was like even normal, because it was like I was in like a cold sweat. I was nauseous as hell. I was like feeling like faint almost. And so I ended up having to call Ian, who fortunately was home, to come get me from work so that I could come home. It was like my body was just like, I need to get everything out of me in every way I can. And then I need to sleep. And that was like what I did. I got home and I went to sleep and I woke up like 3 hours later feeling totally normal again. So now I feel like I'm just a constant ticking time bomb for potentially a whole other week. And then the other thing being that it's not for everyone, but it can be much longer than a period. Sorry, the beetle is back.
I know it would have a resurgence.
So
I knew there'd be a flare up.
Yeah. So I'm on, like I said, today marks a week since it started, and I probably have about a week left that I'm going to be dealing with it.
I just feel so angry. I've never heard that a miscarriage is painful. I've never considered that is a thing. I just feel like so angry about that. Like, so, like, it's so common and it's so traumatizing and it's so painful, and we don't know about that.
People just don't talk about it.
So many women are suffering in silence all the time.
So many of the articles that I was like doing research for this, and like, so it's about the emotional pain, but it's also like so many of the articles are about like, it's the hardest thing is that I had to go do this and go do this and go do this while I was having a miscarriage, and I had to hide my pain and just go do them. And listen, I totally understand, like, I do have less responsibilities than a lot of women who go through this, or people that go through this. Like, I don't have kids now. I don't have to go, like, to their school events and stuff. And like, sometimes there are things, my work is very flexible. I was able to work from home or to take the time off when I needed it, like this week. But, and my manager's wonderful and like extremely understanding. But
we're having a beetle. We're having a beetle situation.
But like, I'm not saying that anybody who does like have to power through it and doesn't want to talk about it with everybody that they see. Like, I'm not talking about it with everybody I see. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But like, it's wild to me that people don't like realize how how much it physically sucks. Like, and that just leaves it like, for me, it was so, even knowing everything that I went in knowing, it was really hard for me to accept that, like, I needed to treat myself like I was really ill. Like, I needed to be kind to myself, and I needed to let other people treat me like that too. And that needed to be okay, you know?
And I feel like disappointed with your medical professionals for not, like, maybe, like, how would they not know that this is a possibility?
I mean, they did. I think they did. I think that, like, there's the whole thing of, like, how much do you really want to know about it? Like, if you had asked me a month ago if I would want to know I was going to have a miscarriage a month before I did, I would have said, like, no, I don't. Like, I'd rather,
not that. You know? Sorry, the painful part of it. Yeah. Like how painful it is.
Right. But, like, that's another thing. Like, sometimes doctors will tell you something's gonna be a pressure, but then it turns out it fucking hurts. Like, I think that maybe not every doctor thinks that you'll want to know how painful it's going to be going in. And again, I think for some people, it is like a period. Like, it's not as bad. But it fucking was for me.
I just feel like, I feel like I would want to know. I would want them to be like, it could be this, but it also really could be this. And if it is, you should plan on, like, if it gets bad, you should plan on, like, taking a couple days off or something. Just like something. Not just being like, oh, it's probably just going to be like this. Period. It's probably going to be like period. Yeah.
And the second doctor, the one who was like, I think it's going to be worse than a period. Like, she saw the same ultrasound that the midwife did. And she was able to deduce from that it was not going to be like a period. So, you know, I think but, you know, she's doing her best. Like, she's honestly, like, if she hadn't ordered the test in the first place, like, we would have been in a lot worse of a situation. So I can't, like, badmouth her, you know, like, she's been very, very helpful and kind through this whole process. But
I'm not saying we have to put her on blast.
But I just think, you know, I just think it's something that, I just think it's something that it's ridiculous to me that it's so common and so many people don't know anything about it. And I just really felt compelled to share a little bit.
Well, I thank you. I thank you very much for sharing.
You're welcome.
It's great and important.
So, so let's do homework. And so I can mark this as the timestamp for when we stopped talking about this.
Cool. Can't wait to hear what your homework is, Hannah.
Well, actually, let me say one more thing. You know, another thing that I do want to say is, like, as much as I do think it's like important to destigmatize talking about this kind of stuff, I also do really totally understand that it's not an easy thing for someone to talk about when they're going through it or when they've gone through it. Like, I understand why you wouldn't want to. I think that that's a totally fine decision as well. I just want to say that. You know, and there were times when we were, you know, even the people who knew about it, we knew we wouldn't be able to talk to them on the phone about it. So we would text them about it and stuff like that. Like just like in general through this whole process, I've learned, I feel like I've learned a lot about sort of following your gut on a lot of things when it comes to, like, your emotional and also your physical, like, well-being, basically.
I'm glad that you have a really understanding place of work.
Yeah.
That, you know, that's really good.
Me too. I really dodged a bullet because if I was having to deal with that, like, super inflexible hour-and-a-half commute.
Oh my God.
That would have been very...
No, that would have been bad.
Boo.
No bueno. Yeah. Okay. Let's do homework. And Erin, what's your homework?
I'm first. My homework is to obtain and read The Secret Diaries of Miss Anne Lister. The author will be Anne Lister, because she fucking wrote it. You might also see it under Helena Whitbread. That's W-H-I-T bread.
Bread.
V-O-E-A-T. Yeah, that's my homework. Do it.
No socials anymore.
Yeah, I don't really have any to speak of. I've been hard at work on my Queer Works map. Just trying, it's, you know, chugging along, working on it. So we're, you know, at some point that'll be something. It still is something I mentioned, but I'll do something. I'll be like, you can actually do something there. So
Nice.
Not yet. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Cool.
Ben, what's your homework?
My homework is to watch Hilda on Netflix. The first season is on there, and there's a second season coming out sometime next year. And my Twitter is Nicely Proved Ben. My Twitch is Disco Greg. Hannah, take it away.
Okay. I guess I don't know what my homework is. Just like
Take care of yourself.
take care of yourself. Listen to your body and listen to your heart.
And listen to
Yeah.
your buddy.
Listen to your buddy and listen to your loved ones. Yeah. Just like be kind to yourself is my homework. And my Twitter is at Hanthropology. That's also my Instagram. I have another podcast called So Dreamy where we talk about dreams. And our podcast phone number, which has been rescued, but you'll soon probably be able to access from I don't want to make any promises, but if you can't reach it on the website, it's in the description of every episode. So you can find the number there. If you can't do it at the click of a button. And, it is.
If you're on an iPhone.
You can if you're on an iPhone. And, we also say it every week. And the Blaze It is not part of the number. It's 77.
Do not attempt to type in Blaze It.
That would be way too many
It's
numbers.
such a long number.
Or not enough. If you were just doing like Blaze It, that's only 6 digits. Like where AZEIT, now it's 7.
Oh my god, I totally forgot. I wrote.
We should change it.
1-800 Blaze It is what we should change it to.
I actually totally forgot. I'm so sorry. I wrote a whole like essay. That was what I was kind of working off of for my segment this week. So it's not posted anywhere yet, but I'm going to try to get it up somewhere. Like, I don't know, like Medium or something like that. Or even just up on a blog, or I'm not sure where, but I'm going to try to get it up online someplace so I can link to it in case you do want a little more sort of detail or something that's more shareable or searchable or whatever. Just something that maybe will turn up for someone who might find themselves Googling in a stupid way like I was a few weeks ago. So look for that on like Twitter for a link to wherever that ended up. That's good homework.
Dope.
Yeah. And the phone number as it is today, whatever we decide to change it to, is 774-326-0420.
Blaze it, because 420 is the
Don't-
weed number.
Blaze It, don't dial it.
I was about to say that. Blaze it, don't dial it.
That's our new ending. That's our new ending with the phone number. Blaze It, don't dial it. Thanks, Tom Brown.
You can also reach us on Instagram at WayTooBroad, on Twitter at TooBroadPod. We have an email address, waytooBroad@gmail.com. We also have a webbing site. If you have not been able to remember any of the things we just said, you can find all of them at waytoobroad.com for anything you want. earnben.com for anything you need. And please remember to, big shout out to Cryptid Hedgehog for leaving us a really sweet review this week.
Yes. Thank you.
If you enjoyed the episode, please join Cryptid Hedgehog in leaving us a really sweet review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes or wherever you can.
And not thank you to the Joker who left us a not good review. No thanks.
No thanks on that one. I do think the fact that they both, I didn't tell you guys this, we actually charted in the US for the first time this week.
Wow.
It was like 1421 on the comedy charts or something like that.
Blaze it.
And I think it was because we got 2 reviews that were so soon after each other, even though one of them was a 1-star review.
Yeah, no thank you.
Yeah. But I really think that was a child. So, I'm forgiving.
Cool.
I'm forgiving.
A small shitty child.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it. So thanks for listening. We love you.
We love you.
And the podcast,
really love you.
Cryptid Hedgehog, not Blake.
Not child.
The podcast candle is now extinguished.
Goodbye, podcast candle.
Goodbye. Should I have not doxed that child?
Isn't their name viewable on the review?
Yeah.
They deserved it. You think it's a literal child?
I think it's a literal child. Where's my fucking outline?
You don't have an outline.